I think I'm all done here.
Are you f***ing kidding me? This looks like Budget Volcano Bay. Get better. Watch a tutorial.
Alright, fine. Hello, hi, welcome to another video. Terraforming can be pure pain and a huge time sink. Large areas can easily take many days, if not weeks, to do. Fortunately, we have access to powerful building tools that can massively speed up the process of terraforming and make it much easier. Such a tool is named WorldEdit, and today I'll be going through the basics of terraforming alongside showing you how to make islands, floating islands, and mountains with WorldEdit. If you're new to WorldEdit, this beginner-friendly guide will explain all the commands used in the video. Additionally, you can find a WorldEdit download link in the description if you don't have it yet. For those familiar with WorldEdit, timestamps are in the description. Enjoy the video! Before you start using WorldEdit, it is helpful to know the basics of it. I know, truly mind-blowing. Right, let's start. 1. Selection. WorldEdit is a very powerful building tool with countless functions. And the most important function WorldEdit has to offer is the selection tool. To get the selection tool, do // wand. If you at any time lose or break your wand, do // wand to replace it. The selection type we will be using is cuboid. Cuboid is the default selection mode, but if it isn't, do // cell cuboid. Cuboid selection works like this. You select one point, and you select another point, thus making a cuboid-like region. Regions are used to better control many of the WorldEdit commands. For selecting regions, I can recommend doing // draw cell. This will make the borders of the selected region visible. Copy and paste. Copy and paste are used to copy and paste selected regions. To copy, create a region using the selection wand. After selecting the desired region, choose a suitable position to stand. Where you stand whilst using the copy command determines where the paste location of your clipboard in relation to your position is. Meaning, if I stand 3 blocks away from the entrance and do // copy, fly over here and do // paste, the house will be pasted with the entrance of the house being 3 blocks in front of me. Understanding the concept of the copy point is crucial. Without grasping this, you won't have control over the paste locations. For this reason, I highly recommend that you play around with the copy and paste commands to get a better understanding of how it works. Cut command. The cut command deletes the region you have selected and copies it to your clipboard. The command for this is // cut. Undo and redo. To undo a command that was executed, do // undo. To redo an undid command, do // redo. There is a limit to the undos and redos, so if you spam a command, you might not be able to undo everything. Furthermore, if you log off and back on, you will not be able to undo any of the commands you did before logging off. This also applies to the clipboard. Block inputs and percentages. Many WorldEdit commands take block inputs. That is why it is important to know how to enter the block inputs correctly. Firstly, when a block is made out of multiple words, just add an underscore where there would be a space in between words. For example, smooth stone would be smooth _ stone. Secondly, when placing or replacing blocks with commands, you can have more than one block. To achieve this, just add a comma with no spaces between the blocks you want. It should look something like this. And lastly, you can use percentages to define the proportion of blocks. To do this, just add the percentages in front of the blocks without a space. It is important to ensure that the percentages add up to 100% and are placed in front of each block for straightforward usage. Terraforming mountains can be challenging, but with WorldEdit, you can create them in mere minutes. To start off, the most important trick for terraforming with WorldEdit is to shape everything with sand to prevent floating blocks. To make the mountain, we will utilize brushes. But what are brushes? Brushes are the most useful tool for quick and easy terraforming. The tool executes a selected action on a right click when held. There are various brush types, but we'll only utilize a few. The first one we will use is the sphere brush. To obtain a brush tool, hold a Minecraft tool, for example a stone axe, and enter / brush sphere, then the block or blocks you would like, then the radius in the chat. The max radius for brushes is always going to be 6. Here is the example. This tool will make sand spheres with the radius of 6. We will be using this with sand to shape our terrain. To unbind the tool, you can do /tool unbind. If you accidentally unbind the selection wand, simply do /wand to replace it. For this mountain, I will use /brush sphere sand 6 on our iron axe. Now using the brush, let's shape the mountain. Once you are happy with the rough shape of it, it's time to smooth it out. For this, we need another brush, that being the smooth brush. The command looks something like this: /brush smooth radius #solid. #solid means that it will target blocks. Having a mask is also possible to target specific blocks, but I'll explain what masks are later. The smooth brush is used to smooth out the blocks to make the shapes seem smoother and more natural. I will use /brush smooth for #solid. If you overdo the smoothing and flatten points you want to be visible, use the sand sphere brush with a smaller radius to redefine the point. And if there's too much sand, you can use an air sphere brush, which would be written like this. Once the shape of the mountain is to your liking, use the replace command. The replace command is used to change blocks or the region to other blocks. This is how the command looks: /replace, then the block or blocks you want to change, space, then the block or blocks you want. Percentages in the block inputs apply here. For example, I will do /replace stone space 80% spruce _ planks, comma 20% oak _ log. The result is the stone of the region I had selected turned to 80% spruce planks and 20% oak logs. I will do /replace sand space stone to turn the sand into stone. To make the mountain survival friendly, you can do /hollow so you don't need as many blocks. The hollow command will hollow out the solid structures of a selected region. The /hollow command should be executed after you turn the mountain to stone. There will probably be a few holes that you need to cover up by hand, but I promise you the command works fantastically. Now we need some other blocks to improve the mountain's appearance. The paintbrush would be an option to add different blocks, but the paintbrush only affects the surface blocks that have nothing above it. For that reason, we will be setting the mask to the block or blocks we want to affect. The mask is used to define the blocks you want to target with brushes. For example, I'll set the mask to red wool and pink wool, and the brush will only affect those two blocks and nothing else. This works with all the brushes, and to disable the mask, simply type /mask. Once the mask is set, enter /brush set sphere radius, then the block or blocks you would like. This replaces the target block or blocks in a spherical manner. I will use /mask stone and /brush set sphere 3 clay for the mountain peaks. Then /set sphere to 70% clay, 20% andesite, 10% stone to surround the clay and give it a blend. And /brush set sphere 3, 20% clay, 20% andesite, 60% stone. Then /brush set sphere 6, which is the radius by the way, 1% coal _ ore, 3% iron _ ore, and 96% stone to add a little more to the mountain. And once all of that is done, you've got yourself a mountain. And by flipping the mountains, you can also get yourself some floating islands. To flip the mountain, we will use the rotate command. The rotate command is used to rotate and flip your clipboard, also known as your copied region. By entering the command with the desired angle, you can specify the axis of rotation. Use zeros to indicate the axis that would remain unchanged. There are 3 places you can enter values. The first number is for the y-axis, the second is for the x-axis, and the third is for the z-axis. Rotation around different axes occur relative to the copy point, your position when copying the region. As an example, I have a little house that I made. I'm going to copy it while standing on the gold block, meaning that the copy point is on the gold block. With / rotate 90, the rotation around the y-axis is chosen because the value is the first number. Remember, the first number is the y-axis, the second number is the x-axis, and the third number is the z-axis. Following along the y-axis of the gold block, the copy point, imagine a beam shone into the sky. The rotation will be clockwise along the beam, meaning with / rotate 90, it will rotate 90 degrees clockwise. This logic also applies to the other axes, and it will rotate along the x or the z imaginary beams. Copy the mountain with / copy and use / rotate 0, 180 to flip it upside down. Then paste it with / paste in the sky, and now you have a floating island. Personally, I enjoy large round floating islands. First, start off by making a stone sphere with / sphere stone, then the radius. I use the command here because I only want one sphere and I want it to be quite large. When the command gets executed, it will place the center of the sphere where you stand. After getting out of the sphere, take a little more than half of the sphere and replace all of it with sand except for the bottom layer. Next, we will use the /move command to move it into the sky. The move command shifts blocks in your region in the direction you're facing for a specified distance. The command looks like this: /move followed by the number of blocks. For instance, /move 5 will shift the region's blocks by 5 blocks in the direction you're looking. It's important to note that the selection region itself won't move with the command, and the blocks including air, will replace any existing block in their path. Also, if at any point you want to move or paste something without the air blocks deleting the blocks that it would occupy, add /a at the end of the command. This will make it so the command will ignore the air blocks, but it's not necessary here. So select the region of the upper half of the sphere, including that one stone layer, look up and type /move 50. This moves the sphere 50 blocks into the air. Now get yourself 2 different tools and set one of them to a sphere brush for sand and the other for air, so you can make indents. When you're happy with the rough shape, get another tool to bind the smooth brush to it. And set the mask to sand with /mask sand, so the smooth brush doesn't make holes in the stone layer. And smoothen out the island to your liking. Now, replace the sand with stone and set the mask to stone with /mask stone. Now, texture the island to your liking. I use the same technique that I used for the mountains by making the peaks out of clay and kind of just blending it in. Once the island is textured, copy it and do / rotate 0, 180 and paste it where you want it to be. Smooth the edges of the floating island. Once this is done, you have the freedom to merge other islands together and build whatever you want on the island. We've made it to the final topic of today, regular islands. There are numerous island forms, more than you might expect. Some have short sandbanks before dropping into the depths, while others feature long, gradual sandbanks that gradually deepen, and there are many variations in between. I'll go over 2 different ways of making the islands. Both methods lead to 2 very different looking islands. The first way of making islands is where you just take a sand sphere brush and spam it. Then smooth it out, cut off the top, and smoothen the edges. I would only make the island terrain once you have a flat island top. To make raising portions of the flat plane easier, use the raise brush. Use / brush raise sphere, then the radius, whilst holding a Minecraft tool to obtain this brush. The max radius stays 6. This brush raises the area you click on. The second way of making islands is the way I like better. You use the /sil command. The /sil command or the cylinder command is where you make cylinders. I know, groundbreaking stuff. The command looks something like this: /sil block radius, then the height. For example, /sil sand 24. This makes a cylinder with a height of 4 blocks and the radius of 20 blocks that is out of sand. Use the sil command to create sand cylinders that gradually decrease in size. For steeper slopes, stack more layers of the same radius on top of each other. During this step, it is also not a bad idea to use the sand sphere brush to add more diverse terrain. Once the shape is to your liking, figure out what the ocean bed should be and start texturing and replacing blocks. For the trees, I made 2 or 3 different types and changed the orientation of each tree so they don't look the same. For the walls surrounding the ocean, I selected the outer region and did / walls glass. Then without changing the region, did / replace air water to fill in the air blocks with water to give the ocean border, thus completing the island. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful or enjoyable, please consider leaving a like. Your feedback guides me to make better content in the future. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to be notified when I upload. It takes one click of a button for you, but takes me weeks of work to push this sort of content out. Plus, you can always unsubscribe later. If you'd like more in-depth coverage of any of the topics in the video, or want me to cover something else, please let me know in the comments. Thank you again for watching. Have a fantastic rest of your day or night. Have a good one.